Why is everyone fixated about this deal between Intel and Nvidia ending up being a monopoly? You know what, I understand why and I know where everyone is coming from, but I don't think people are looking at the whole picture, and that's why I'm here. But before we get to the part that will make everyone angry, let's talk about what happened, and if you haven't been living under a rock, feel free to skip. Or if you want a refresher of the story, basically Nvidia will be investing $5 billion in Intel, where it will own about 4 to 5% of Intel shares. After that deal goes through, they have this deal where Intel will be making custom x86 CPUs for Nvidia, and the reason why Nvidia needs Intel is because Nvidia doesn't have an x86 license, so they are unable to produce them, and because of that they need Intel to make custom x86 CPUs so they can make better data centers based on the x86 CPU architecture, because it seems like there are a lot of companies who still use x86 based data centers, and Nvidia wants to better service that market, and they need to be custom so they work better with the Nvidia NVLink technology. And from what I have seen, Nvidia NVLink, it's crazy. It looks like it can connect all the GPUs in a rack and make them act as one big system. On the other hand, Nvidia will be selling chiplets to Intel, and from there Intel will take those chiplets and they will put CPUs in them, and then we will have CPUs with Nvidia RTX integrated graphics, which is actually great for two things. First, Intel's integrated graphics are not good compared to the competition, so there's a win right there, and second, AMD is just dominating the CPU market right now, so this might help Intel to actually even the odds a bit, for a while at least, and who knows, they might even start competing with Apple MacBooks even at battery life. And considering that a few years ago Intel was the undisputed CPU maker, it's actually a bit sad to see how low they have fallen. They need this deal to work for them. Basically, this is the whole deal as far as the companies have told us. Now, why are people worried? Because from the looks of it, Nvidia can't make x86 CPUs, so it's buying it from Intel to make better data centers, and Intel has crappy integrated graphics, so it's buying those from Nvidia, so both can make better products for the consumer. Actually, there are a lot of things to worry about, and Gamers Nexus has made all of those worries clear in this video. And he starts by listing a lot of things that these companies have done that are not good, or their CEOs have done things that are not good. Either way, to his credit, he is right, but then again, like 99% of all companies will do whatever they can for money. So let's focus on the actual deal, and one of Gamers Nexus worries is that ARC is not a priority for Intel anymore, and they might stop making them, and no one has said that Intel will stop making dedicated GPUs, and Gamers Nexus acknowledges that, but if you read between the lines of what Intel has said, they don't say that they will continue to make them either, and that's what worries Gamers Nexus, so we are just speculating at this point. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind when we talk about this deal. First, this deal was not decided to be done overnight. Intel and Nvidia have been seriously talking about this deal for around a year now, and they have accepted that as a fact. And considering how long ago Nvidia wanted x86 CPUs, I wouldn't be surprised if these talks have been done even before then. So during that time, Intel knew that this deal is likely to go through, and even with this deal in mind, they are still manufacturing dedicated GPUs, and they are updating them regularly, just like they did with the previous generation. So why would Intel keep on investing on something they knew they wouldn't continue to do? And I know them saying that they will stop producing dedicated GPUs might hurt them short term, so that would be one reason. But first, they are still spending money on updating these GPUs regularly, and not just small updates. They are making them better and better with every update. They are optimizing these GPUs even after they are sold, and if they weren't planning on keeping them, why would they put in so much effort in that? And there are some rumors that late this year, which we are almost at late this year, the ARC B770 will launch, so make of that what you will. Don't forget, neither Gamers Nexus nor my opinions are 100% guaranteed, it's just a prediction, but based on Intel's actions, them giving up on ARC just doesn't seem likely. Not to mention, this generation of ARC has done extremely well. It got praise from everyone for its price to performance value. Not to mention, it's even better now. And not just reviews, it's sold like crazy almost everywhere. there were many stores that just didn't have any more stock of Intel Arc GPUs because all of the GPUs just sold out. Just think about how crazy that is. Granted, people didn't stock up on Arc GPUs as they would Nvidia's, but again, we can see that Intel is doing well with Arc. It's just making great products, it's selling well, and there's obviously a market for it. Now, the concern that people have with Arc is that Nvidia now owns a small part of Intel, so there's a chance that they might help each other more and compete less, but there are a few laws and regulations that would prevent that from happening. And I know that Nvidia and Intel seem friendly with Donald for now, but the president changes every 4 years, so even if the president were to pull some strings, which I am not saying that he would, they can't rely on that, and of course they wouldn't break any laws that would come back to harm them. So for that reason, I don't think this is a valid point. And like I said, just think about it. If Intel can, why would it stop itself from entering the GPU market, which is extremely valuable? Plus, considering they are actually doing well, it just doesn't make sense. Then again, Intel has done quite a few things that don't make sense in the last couple of years, but only time will tell. Now back to monopoly. So the concerns are these: since Nvidia owns a small part of Intel, they would be more likely to make better combinations with Intel CPUs for laptops. I am talking about dedicated graphics here as well. After that, Nvidia might be more likely to push products from Intel because it makes money if Intel makes money. Basically, Nvidia will pull any and every string it can to make Intel profitable, and Nvidia has been known to pull a lot of strings when it comes to accomplishing their goals. But why this, to me, isn't as dangerous as it initially sounds. First, Intel and Nvidia are going to keep being shared entities. Even these parts that they will produce, they will sell to each other. So Nvidia uses ARM CPUs for its data centers, and like the CEO of Nvidia mentioned on the interview, they don't plan on stopping using ARM processors. They are actually still investing on ARM to make that better and better. With this arrangement, they are only serving another market, as they say. So Nvidia is still playing both teams. After that, they are not moving production to Intel facilities. If they wanted to have that much of a partnership or a monopoly, they would have moved production to Intel facilities, but they have not. So the deal for now strictly involves just the x86 custom CPUs for Nvidia and chiplets for Intel. Nothing else, except the $5 billion initial investment, which actually that's bad, no matter how you look at it, because they are direct competitors to each other. Now, Nvidia owns a small part of Intel, so that I don't know how that's going to go, but at the same time, I don't see how they are going to do what the other says, because both Nvidia and Intel are their own company, they have their own roadmap, their own plans for the future, so only time will tell. One thing that is for sure is that AMD is going to get affected, and not for the better. First, AMD is just better than Intel at making CPUs, there's no way around it. From price to performance to actually even beating it at everything at the consumer level. Now, this deal is bad because first, if it goes how Nvidia plans, then Nvidia will take a massive chunk of that data center revenue AMD makes, because it can now more directly compete with AMD, and with the technology Nvidia provides, well, it's going to be hard for AMD, but hopefully they come up with some brand new cool stuff and work their way around it. After that, we have the integrated graphics. Okay, so right now Nvidia has the best dedicated graphics, and with Intel getting help from Nvidia, even that might change. In the press conference, they admit that with these integrated graphics, they will focus more on laptops where efficiency and performance are both important, but they don't need the highest end performance. So that's going to be fun to see which company will come ahead there. What I am trying to say is that AMD short term is going to get destroyed. There's no way around it. And before I talk about the positives of this agreement, everyone needs to understand something. Intel hasn't been doing well. It has constantly changed CEOs in the past few years, which might not look bad when you first look at it, but every CEO that comes to the company has their own vision where they will invest billions into that vision, and that vision takes some years to come to fruition. With this many CEOs changing, it means that first, billions are being spent, but those visions are not coming to fruition, and that's just a downward spiral. So with Intel's latest CEO, I think he knows he is left behind. He doesn't have enough money, time, or trust to complete his vision. So that's why he is teaming up with Nvidia to make some money, to invest, to make his name known so people know that Intel will have RTX RTX integrated graphics, which matters a lot, and he can have an edge over AMD finally. And this way he stabilizes the company for a while until something else works. At least from my perspective, that's how it looks, and it's a good plan for where Intel is right now. Now we can argue that Intel shouldn't be here, Intel shouldn't have made so many mistakes, and we can argue that this is not the way Intel should handle their problems. Both are valid arguments. You shouldn't team up with a competitor to harm another competitor. You shouldn't let your direct competitor own 4 to 5% of your own shares. Like I said, both of those things are valid. Not even I, who is playing the devil's advocate, can argue that. But Intel needed to do something, and they did something. So right now it feels like a monopoly, and one of the purposes of this team is to weaken AMD, which I think they will do. But I don't think their intentions are to have a long-lasting partnership. Intel will still continue to make dedicated graphics, and they will invest in integrated graphics until they don't need Nvidia anymore. The only thing that we lost from this partnership are the custom x86 CPUs, which Intel will make for Nvidia for the foreseeable future, because it doesn't seem likely for Nvidia to get an x86 license. And maybe that's why Nvidia wanted to buy 4 to 5% of Intel, so they can just continue with this deal and Intel can't backstab them in the future. By the way, we talked about the bad, but let's focus on the positives for a bit as well. There's one thing that excites me a lot, and that's the RTX integrated graphics. And focus on the RTX part of the whole thing, because Nvidia doesn't say RTX just because it sounds cool. Maybe sounding cool is a part of it, but RTX means that the GPU is capable of ray tracing and DLSS, maybe AI as well, but the thing that is important right now is DLSS and ray tracing, which means that this is where we could benefit the most from Nvidia features, because if this goes well, we can probably play games decently on our laptops on the go and have a decent battery life. Because first, it will look better with ray tracing, at least some games will look better with ray tracing, and DLSS is frame generation. Worth mentioning, the best frame generation software in the market right now. So if a game can reach 30 FPS, you can just use frame generation to achieve higher numbers, to have a better experience. And I know that you need to have a stable frame rate to have a good experience with DLSS, but that's why I said 30 FPS, because 30 FPS is actually quite decent to not notice the difference. And with frame generation, it will look smooth. With ray tracing, it will look gorgeous. And if Nvidia is efficient as well, we could get good battery life on the go. And I know that a lot of things have to align, but even if we don't achieve any great amount of performance, just Nvidia features could make the difference. Because let's be honest, people will not have laptops with integrated graphics as their main gaming rig, but when you are on the go and you already have the laptop, at least you can have a decent gaming experience. That's the whole point. And not to mention, it could be extremely wanted by creators, people who are on the go and appreciate battery life, and because of that they can't use dedicated graphics because they eat just too much battery life. So this could be the perfect solution if it works better than the alternatives, because Intel and AMD already have integrated graphics in their laptops, but Nvidia just has better everything, so it could work and put AMD out of the game and maybe scare Apple a bit. Don't forget, there's hope for Intel. I know it feels like Intel is surrendering to Nvidia. I know that this partnership is not fair for AMD. I think Intel is doing this so it can fight another day. It can experiment on other stuff, and who knows, this could be like the story of Apple when it was going bankrupt and Microsoft invested on Apple and Apple took it because it was desperate. Apple didn't give up and the rest is history. We can only hope that this deal will mean the same for Intel as it meant for Apple back then. So in conclusion, what is happening right now is not right. They are competitors, and when competitors work together, then there's a degree of monopoly there. So this shouldn't happen. Nvidia, the direct competitor, shouldn't own 5% of Intel. This deal will harm AMD, which is not fair for them either. And even in the short term, if we get good products, in the long term it will still harm the tech industry. With that said, Intel going bankrupt, or Intel stopping Intel CPUs, or Intel ARC GPUs production, that to me would be even worse. So you never know, maybe this is the best outcome available, and that's how I want to look at it. Intel is doing whatever they can to fight another day, which is the best thing they can do right now. By the way, if you like topics like this, and if you want to see tech things from a different perspective, don't forget to subscribe, like and comment for more tech related videos, and see you in the next one.